If there was someone who I was not expecting to be my creative painting muse today, it's Pam Beesly from NBC's hit show, The Office. Why did I choose this humble Dunder Mifflin receptionist to be the topic of my piece today? Quite frankly, I have no idea. It's like having that one word that sticks in your head, like the word taco. It starts to invade all your thoughts, making you forget how to speak like a normal human, scaring the Starbucks employees because all you can do is yell taco at them over and over again like a maniac when all you want to know is what the drink sizes are so you don't order something that is too tiny for your gargantuan coffee appetite. Hypothetically speaking, of course. Pam is my taco. She quite literally popped into my head one morning and stayed there, living rent-free, poking a hole in my cranium until I grabbed my pens and brushes and started drawing her. Clearly, the universe was insisting I get a big dose of Jenna Fisher in my life. And as I started working on this, it weirdly began to make sense why I needed to paint her. Assuming you're a fan of the show, otherwise why did you even click on this video? Pam is a character who goes through a huge character arc in building confidence and self-esteem in herself and her creativity. One of her first big tests of this was when she did her first art show. Up until this point in the show, Pam was very hesitant about putting herself out there and stepping outside the norm of her life, having gotten back together with the unsupportive ex-fiancé Roy as evidence to this. However, little by little, Pam does something crucial for her creative spirit. She invests time into her art. She starts to take art classes and ultimately does her first art show to show off her talents. Now, this would be the part where her story arc would typically end. Pam did a hard thing by doing an art show and she can live happily ever after as a successful artist. But that isn't what happens. Instead, we see what happens at the art show and how it greatly affects Pam and how she views herself as an artist. And it's both devastating and inspirational. After telling everyone at the office about her art show, only a few people show up for her. Roy comes to her show, barely looks at her art, and quickly praises himself for coming to her art thing, hoping to get brownie points for attending and not actually caring about what she made. Oscar also shows up and looks at her watercolor paintings and casually remarking to his partner that they are derivative and bland, a comment that Pam overhears and she feels absolutely crushed by this. Then there's Michael, who arrives minutes before the art show closes. The one person that Pam does not respect or hold in high regard was now standing before her artwork, totally mesmerized by the beauty of her pieces, leading him to eventually buy the same painting that was previously ridiculed to hang up on display for all to see at the office. Pam is moved to tears and embraces Michael as a silent gesture of gratitude, feeling seen for the first time. This segment of the episode hits me so hard, and it's because I know these avalanche of emotions Pam is feeling so well, especially when I first began to take my art seriously. Every piece I made felt precious, and in many ways, putting something on canvas is an expression of your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, your silent voice made manifest. And to put your work, your voice, on display for all to see is a scary and necessary step towards gaining confidence in what you do. Now, I'm not saying that I need to constantly fart out creative genius in the form of a painting every time I sit down to do it, because I've totally had my fair share of painting donuts on this channel just because I like eating donuts, alright? But you know what I mean. There is art you make that has a bit of a meaning for you and hits pretty close to home. The very thought of putting my work up on a wall for public consumption was incredibly scary. So I kept my art to myself, which was fine for the time being. But every time I passed by an art gallery or admired a painting in a museum, I found myself wondering, what is really holding me back from sharing my work? Am I afraid of the Roys and the Oscars, who feel the need to patronize my artwork or criticize it to pieces for being too bland or boring or forgettable or stupid? Or am I hopeful for the Michaels, who will do everything they can to own one of my paintings? Am I ready for my voice to be judged as either good or bad? Then it finally dawned on me. Making art is not for someone else's discretion or judgment. It just is. Artwork is a snapshot into the state of mind. It is the reality of the artist's perception, an invitation to be human and to relate in the experiences of life. Granted, I'm not saying art that my toddler makes is on par with a Monet or a Picasso, not at all. There is art out there that can be objectively hard to look at due to the artist's lack of experience with technique, colors, or tone in their messaging. And yeah, they can benefit from more practice and art instruction. But I don't believe this kind of art is inherently good or bad. It's a visual diary entry capturing where that person is right now. With Pam, she painted what she experienced daily, simple mundane things that many people would gloss over but were her observations, her focal points of her everyday life. It's Pam's appreciation for the everyday that truly inspires me to be who I am and simply create art that speaks to where I am at in the current state. And if my art doesn't jive with some people, that's okay. They aren't experiencing those things that I am. But for the ones who see what I see, it's a simple human and heart connection, and that is why I want to keep making art, regardless of the Oscars, regardless of the Roys. So whether you are just picking up a brush for the first time or are a seasoned artist, know that your art matters, your voice matters, people need to hear it, because in the end, we all need a big dose of human connection, just like Pam.